Hi my friends, how you all doing? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another episode of our brand new Community Zoo series. Last episode's linked above. It was kind of an introduction to how this one's going to work. Today, we're going to go through all of your fantastic comments. You've all had your say. We're now going to build the narrative. I'm going to basically reveal the starting point of the zoo and give you a bunch of choices of zoo name. So, my friends, without further ado, let's jump into this one and find out how we're going to get to the official first episode of this project. So first and foremost, you were given the choice, gang, of squares to pick. It was 1 to 4. It was all along kind of bottom of the map, and you have been voting basically for the square that you would like to see us start in. And we are going to be starting from square 1. Square 4 didn't get any votes basically from you as a community. I've basically gone off of what people have kind of said in the comments, so as a result we had 4 for square 3, we had 6 on square 2, and we had 7 for square 1. So it was really close, but we are going to start from square 1, which I believe is the one that's kind of in the corner. So if we wanted, we could come in at this at an angle or whatever. Basically, it's a nice size square as well, and we're going to be able to do a lot with it. And to be honest with you, based on the narrative that I've built from your amazing suggestions and comments, I think it's probably going to be the best square for us to begin with anyway. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through all of the amazing comments that were left, so that you can kind of see what the community was suggesting and kind of the things that were being said. And off of the back of the comments, I have built a narrative. I've really felt there were so many great comments, it would have been really unfair of me to to just go with one comment for the narrative. Instead, I've lent on what everyone said. There's a recurring theme where the comments are concerned, and I felt like that was really great, and that's why I've been able to build the narrative that I have. So we had Sledge, who then came in with a comment. Starting point number 3, it'd be and it would start as a koala rescue center. Now that's going to be the recurring theme, is this whole rescue center idea, and I absolutely love it. They start with a low budget because they did charity work for rescue animals when the Australian bushfires happened. The zoo could have some education and rescue centres. The name for the zoo would be Piri Rescue and Conservation. There's an airport nearby in the real place. Now, I'm going to do the name suggestions in a moment. We're basically going to run through all the comments first, but there's an amazing array of name suggestions for the project, and I'm going to put them all up on screen, as we go through today's video, so you can get a good look at them. And it will go to a poll on the community page once the episode is done, so feel free to head over there and vote for the name for the project. Next up, we've got Chewy, who said, I would pick square 1. You could build a nice diagonal entrance with a fountain and statue in front. Really like Sletch's idea with the Koala Rescue Centre. So you could maybe have that located near the entrance as the first animal in the zoo. No idea about the name for the zoo. I leave this to the others to figure out. Also, really like that it isn't the biggest of zoos. Nice to see you change the zoo size. You haven't gone very big like you do with the other series. Yeah, that was one of my big things as well, Tree, is I really wanted to rein this back, because I really want to A, finish the project, but B, kind of just keep it to a minimum. I think that sometimes we can be overwhelmed by the map sizes in the game. Next, we've got one from Grumpy Old Guy Plays Games. I absolutely love that. And their suggestion is as follows. Start with square 1. You'll need the usual entrance, admin buildings. Also on board with the Koala Rescue Centre. However, this time around, the zoo didn't start as a Koala Rescue Centre. It just became one after the disastrous fires that killed so many of the poor animals a few years ago. The zoo's already present, came to be known as Koala Sanctuary. As for the name, call it Wada Nangu. Yes, he has actually broken it down for me, which is amazing. Wildlife Centre. The word means variably finding common ground, coming together, and discussion among family in the language of the Wadi tribe of Australian First Nations, depending on the context in which the word is used. I am absolutely in love with that because of the whole coming together, because it's a community effort. I really love that name suggestion. It's really amazing. And as you can see, look, the recurring theme of the rescue centre is really cool as well. We've got Call MKN. I also say square 1 would be a good start. I also going with the story around the fires that happened in Australia as well. So I think the idea with the Koala Rescue Centre would be great, or another option would also be the indoor dingo run at the entrance. I have a hard time coming up with names, so I was just going to suggest Outback Animal Reserve. Hey, look, all the name suggestions are good. They're all going to a poll. So, you know, the more name suggestions I've got, the better. Next up, we've got New Age, who is a regular in the comments. Absolutely love it. Interesting. Wasn't on board with Jammy. Curious to see how the community comes together like this. Yeah, Jammy was really at the kind of infancy of this channel, to be fair. So if you're kind of new to the channel in the last maybe year, 18 months, you probably wouldn't have known too much about the community build. One thing that isn't really clear is how close to the map border the squares laid out are. If they are too close, I wouldn't want to start in a corner, so square 2 is preferred. So what I will do is, once your comments read out, New Age, I will show you how close to the border we are, basically. I have left a gap, though, so that once, you know, we can build stuff outside the map that isn't to do with the zoo. So if we wanted to, you know, build houses or, you know, residential areas and things like that, we can do that. Or if we want to build reserves, if we want to build up the foliage, we can do it. I did leave a bit of a space. As for the name, just today I saw some gorgeous pictures of a national park in northwestern Australia called Kununurra. I hope that's how that's pronounced. And then in brackets you've put Goonoonerang, alternatively Gandanarang, which sounds like pretty awesome, distinctive and exotic, yet reminds us of vaguely of Australian indigenous culture. It appears to mean river. Okay, that's really. I am loving these. I'm loving these name suggestions. I really am. As for the development of the project, I would love to see someone tackle a project that starts out with subpar facilities while carefully investing to accommodate more rescued animals, while also improving the creatures already in place. I would suggest starting with a dilapidated farm. And house semi-domestic animals, emu, ostrich, camel, deer, while also some more exotic animals because of the previous family acquired bears, big cats, large reptiles for status when they were more wealthy. I do think that what's proposed already, a koala rehab, is pretty solid, so why not extend it to wombats and wallabies? Can definitely be managed with my idea since new management takes over. Then for the further future, when the park is up to welfare standards, I'd like to see some environmental engineering, trying to turn back decades of land and soil degradation. Think of how zoos in arid or semi-arid areas often have side projects that dive into sustainable energy acquisition and how they recreate patches of suitable foliage to expand naturally. Absolutely amazing comment. Taking a lot of it on board in working it into the early narrative of this project. Next up, I'm going to do a Bring Your Cats comment. Now, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not going to do all of the comments that were left. I'm literally going to read out the ones that kind of leading to the narrative or there are name suggestions. So I'm going to apologise to anyone whose comment isn't read out. It's not that I didn't like the comment. I've just kind of, you know, I've taken other comments to kind of build how the story is going to begin. So Bring Your Cats. This should be fun. Excited to see where we head together. I am down with the sanctuary idea. Also starting off with a rundown farmhouse where buildings were repurposed to house the rescued animals. I built a sanctuary zoo a while back and made a rule to only rescue animals with really bad stats. Old age, kind of the animals no one would deem good enough to give a home. I even had enclosures away from visitors for animals with low immune stats. It's tricky because they really don't make money unless there's glass as such. Could perhaps be a future aspect to the zoo as it gets larger. The idea mentioned with the education centre area could tie in as well. I would say square 2. If the starting point is a farmhouse, it would leave space for farmland around the starting point, which throughout the development is repurposed for shelter and harvesting food for the animals. I would choose a less shy Australian animal as a starter, and the basic starter pack: keeper, vet, mechanic. Do we manage research, and of course the starting facilities? No shops, they produce waste and then acquire more staff. As for research, we don't need to worry about it because this isn't a franchise. This is actually in a sandbox map, but I've just turned all the options on just so you can kind of get used to that. So yeah, we don't need to do the research. Moving on to the next comment. It's from Frustrated Rhinoceros. They say I say we go with square 2. Narrative, hopping on the koala centre idea. Upon seeing the devastation caused by the wildfires throughout Australia, a young lad named Malcolm decided to make a difference. Ever since being a young child, he'd always loved being around nature and learning more about each of the species surrounding him. Each day he would travel out to the many parks close to his home and study the creatures he saw. It was a fascination that stuck with him throughout his entire childhood. So after finishing his ecological science course at the University of Queensland, Brisbane, him and girlfriend Hannah, another keen ecologist, left the city for a wilder place and began making a difference to the harm that humans have caused the natural world. They start work on a rescue centre, and the rest is still to be written, which is amazing, and you're going to see my story that I've written off the back of all yours. I'm really hoping I've done all your comments justice, but I am absolutely in love with it. Absolutely in love with it. I really, really am. Next up is Primal. I think we should go with Square One with how it's shaped. It seems to be the best use for the space for the entrance. As for a possible name storyline, maybe the zoo is started by the aftermath of the Great Bushfires, leave millions of animals affected, orphaned due to the devastation, and we need more locations to house these animals, and this zoo could have been started as an orphanage for the local affected kangaroos, koalas and wombats. Absolutely amazing. What is next? I've got them all written down, gang, and it's quite hard to get through them all. We've got one coming in from Valid Arc. I think Block 3 would be a good starting point, nice and central. For the name, I think Walriri Pearly, I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, could work nicely. Basically, it means Kangaroo Hill in Walpiri. The first animal could be a menace male kangaroo, who was also a bit of a local icon. So the locals didn't want him cold, so he got brought in. For who runs it? For who runs it and what kind of facility it is, maybe it's a state government run facility that mainly breeds endangered species. We can pretend they're even they're even if they're not. They're there even if they're not. But we'll also take in problem animals like our Boomer, which is really, really cool. It's kind of like we had Toby and Jammy, and this time we're going to have Boomer potentially. And then we've got Aussie Medic is the last comment I'm going to read out, because it's the last one that really feeds into the narrative I've decided to go with. For anyone that's left a comment though, continue to leave your comments every video that you enjoy, and if you want to get involved. At the end of the day, we're always going to need extensions on the narrative. I really appreciate anyone that's got involved so far, and apologies if I didn't read your comment out. It doesn't mean I didn't like it, just didn't really feed into what I've decided to go with at the beginning. Aussie Medic though did say, I think of all the devastation caused by our floods and the fires, the federal government has given a grant of $100,000 to help repopulate our native lands with the wildlife. The Australian Indigenous Rangers go out into the affected bushlands and collect the animals and start a breeding program, which they will be released back into the Australian bush. After being successful, they then instead start to move the worldwide stage, taking in the endangered wildlife and around the world and breeding them to help repopulate them in worldwide. The zoo name can be Garrigo. I hope that the N is silent. If it's not, please let me know. Indigenous for Snowy Mountain, and the Borby, which is indigenous for koala. I've actually taken the two words, combined them to do our name, because I actually think it's quite cool. Let me know if that was supposed to be the case. If not, then I can always change it up. For me, Zone 3, as it's central and is big enough to have an entrance in the first habitat. So those are all of your amazing comments, my friends. I absolutely love them. And off the back of your comments, this is the story I've decided to build for us to get this project started. So Malcolm and Hannah, a brilliant young couple from Brisbane, had always had a love for the wilderness and all of the amazing creatures, great and small, that lived in it. Both had not long finished their studies in ecological sciences and wanted to put their brilliant minds to work. Rather than use their degrees in a more traditional sense, they decided to fulfill a lifelong dream and buy an old, rundown farm with the idea of one day turning it into a fully fledged zoo. The road would be long and hard, but it was a challenge that the couple were more than up to. Not only do Malcolm and Hannah take on the old farmhouse and the land that it sits on, but the animals that had called it home for the last few years. There's Boomer, a rogue male kangaroo who avoided a culling from the locals because they loved him so much. Molly and Mo, a pair of emus that just can't be separated. Cecil, the camel, and a small herd of fallow deer. As the couple get to work on the farm with hopes of eventually opening it to the public, tragedy hits. Bushfires hit the country hard, with many of the indigenous species at risk, with koalas in particular being hit the hardest. It's at this point that Hannah suggests to Malcolm they set up a small rescue centre on the farm to help the already amazing efforts by fellow centres in the country. With an application made and their savings drained, a small government fund is sent their way, and it's at this point that our young couple's story begins. So first things first, we need to build the farm. Now, my thoughts on the farm is that it isn't going to be something that's sparkly and brand new. It's something they've picked up cheap. Maybe even the, the small habs and whatever that the animals are in. The fences are a bit, all higgledy-pickledy. They're a bit broken down. I don't want it to look amazing. I want us to basically build something that's maybe been there for quite some time, and then over time we'll go back and we will bring it up to standard. We'll make it look brand new and sparkly and whatever. Whereas the rescue centre is going to look brand new because it's going to be something that is built now from the very beginning. It's a brand new building to help with the rescue efforts in the area. Okay, so this is square one. This is where we're going to be beginning. Now, my thoughts are, because obviously we can't just throw a farm in here. My thoughts are, obviously, for the future, is that there will be a road that runs all the way along down here, okay? For New Age that was asking, this is where the boundaries are. You can see the white line there, you can see the white line there. So I left a lot more room this side, and then there's a bit of room this side. So I always leave that bit of room because obviously we need to place spawn points and things like that, and I don't want to be placing spawn points inside our squares because it's just space that we want to use for the zoo, basically. So in square one, we're going to build this farm. We're going to have the few animals that were suggested. We're going to build the rescue centre, and I would imagine we are going to have at least a couple of koalas inside the rescue centre. So we're actually going to have quite a few animals at the beginning, to be fair, to kind of throw in the mixer and get involved in the build. So my thoughts are, like I've just said, we are going to have the farm. We're going to build like a farmhouse, maybe like a barn next to it. We're going to build some really, really basic habs that those animals that have been on the farm for quite some time live in. But they are going to be super basic because it's going to be just like a farm that someone owned, and then, Hannah and Malcolm have come along and they've bought it up. And then we're going to build maybe like next to it that brand sparkly kind of new rescue centre, which isn't going to be over the top. It's not going to be a huge unit. It's just going to be big enough to kind of like just help the efforts, basically. And that's essentially going to be kind of the episode 1. And, the thoughts are that I'm going to try and keep it very Australian. We're going to try a different type of architecture. I'm really not sure kind of where we're going to put what. This is going to be the main road, so I'd imagine we're going to have a road kind of come in. I like the idea of the road kind of, a dusty old dirt road coming in here and then kind of going off in that direction, like in a diagonal direction. And the main farmhouse maybe being over here, and then all on this side of the road where the habs are for those animals. And then there was just some old grassland here that was, kind of gated off with an old wooden gate, and they kind of let the deer go in there every now and then to kind of chew down the grass. Something along those lines is kind of what I like. But then this corner was then given up for the rescue centre, and we would build like a rescue centre in here for the animals that are suffering as a result of the bushfires and stuff. Let me know what you make of that, gang. It's really basic, it's really hard to kind of see, but that's what I'm thinking based on what you guys have said and the narrative that we've built. And really all there is left to it now is for me to go away and build it. And so I've talked you through kind of what I plan to do off the back of the story. And the only other thing that I want to put up on the screen before we leave today is those name suggestions, because I nearly forgot about it, my friends. So as you can see, these are all the name suggestions I've taken from the comments. Basically, feel free to take your favourite. Now, you could do this one of two ways. I am going to be putting a poll on the community page at the same time this video goes out, or you can leave it in the comment section which one's your favourite. Either way, whatever one gets voted for the most is going to be the name of this brand new project. I absolutely love all of all of them, but I really love the ones that I've got the traditional kind of languages and meanings. I really love those because I really feel like they've got that Australian feel. We had it with Jammy, where Jammy was Swahili, wasn't it, for community, and our family were from Africa that run the zoo, and it really all felt like at one. So it'd be great actually if we could go down a more traditional sense, but that's not me trying to kind of get you to go a certain direction. They're just the ones that I really like. So feel free to vote for your favourite, gang. You can, like I say, comment section or go over to that poll. Either way, I don't mind. Just let me know which one you like the most. And so there you go, gang, we are done and dusted for this episode. Do just take it on board that I'm going to be doing these episodes separately in this time around. I used to do this at the beginning of the reveal episodes each time, but because of the stuff we have to go through in those episodes, I think it's all a bit much. So we're going to be doing these separately this time around. But if you're enjoying the series, please drop a like on this video and feel free to continue getting involved in the comments. I know I didn't read everybody's out, but that's just the nature of the beast. When you get a lot of comments, it's really difficult to kind of make these episodes shorter. But I enjoy everything that you guys are suggesting and the stories and stuff you're building. The episode I'm hoping will be out at some time next week. Do keep your eyes peeled for it. Can't wait to get going. But until then, subscribe if you're new. Like I say, continue with the comments. Drop likes on the video if you've enjoyed it. But until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay humble. See you all real soon.